There comes a time, somewhere after 50, when you realize home isn't just about where you live. It's about how you live. It's about who you're becoming and what you're ready to make space for. I'm Juli Ford, real estate expert and longtime wellness coach, and someone who's lived in a multi-generational home for the past decade while reinventing my life and my business. And this is Home After 50, a podcast about what it really means to find, shape, and come home to a new season, to a new home, to a new version of yourself. Whether you're thinking about upsizing, downsizing, moving in with family, or just asking bigger questions about what's next, you're in the right place. Each episode, I will share stories, insights, and real strategies for women redefining home and life on their own terms. Because after 50, home isn't just a place, it's a calling. And this time, it's yours. Well, today I am coming to you with a cup of tea in hand, back from my vacation to Scotland, where I met up with my husband, who's been working in Europe for a few months. And we had the most magical vacation. And I came back with a cold. So I actually wondered if I would even record this today. Hopefully there won't be too much sniffling and coughing. But it made me think when I returned about how after 50, rest is a strategy. It's really not a luxury anymore. And winging it in our lives just really isn't practical. I posted on Instagram yesterday about, well, the topic was why you want to hire a realtor who actually takes vacations. And the reason I shared that was because while I was away this time for, I think the first time really in my real estate business, I had so much structure and support in place, so many automations in place that I was able to fully check out. And very rarely did I have to read an email message or send a quick message to my virtual assistant. Everything was covered while I was gone. So rather than my business pulling me away from my vacation, I was able to really fully sink in and enjoy the magic of Edinburgh, which, by the way, if you've never been to Edinburgh, Scotland, I highly, highly recommend you add it to your list. It is one of the most magical cities that I've ever been to. Really incredible. I would definitely go back. And instead of my business struggling or stagnating while I was away, it actually grew. And because of my multi-generational home, instead of life at home being complicated, life at home actually ran really smoothly. And I'll share more about why in a few minutes. It was largely thanks to my adult daughter who lives at home with us right now. But I thought this was a great opportunity to talk about rest as a strategy and not a luxury after 50. I think through much of my life, I pushed myself beyond what were probably healthy boundaries for my well-being. And I think that largely came from this idea of life being sort of endlessly rolled out in front of us with ample time to recover, to recuperate, to catch up on rest later, to catch up on sleep later. I think when we're young, that's really natural to feel that way. And as I've gotten older, I realized that that is just not a luxury that I have. There isn't an endless amount of time ahead. There isn't an endless amount of time to catch up on sleep later, to recover later, to work myself beyond what feels good to my body and my mind, and just think that there'll be some mystical time in the future where I can recover from that. That's not the reality at 56 years old. So I need to be more strategic. But here's the good news. At this age, I also have such a greater wealth of wisdom to draw on. We all do, right? This is the blessing of aging, of being fortunate enough to stick around and learn and grow and apply the wisdom that we've accumulated through our life so that we can manage things in a totally different way. So, what happened in my business while I was away? My latest listing had gone under contract, but we were due to sign purchase and sale. If you are at all familiar with real estate or if you're in the business yourself, it will not surprise you to hear that despite the fact that I had arranged for the purchase and sale to be signed before I left on my trip, there were some delays that were beyond my control. And we had to push off the purchase and sale signing for a few days, which led it to be due to be signed a few days into my trip. But that was okay because I have a full-time virtual assistant and I let everyone know, my clients, the buyer's agent, my client's attorney, the buyer's agent's attorney, that I would be away with very limited access. And I arranged everything I needed to ahead of time so that my virtual assistant could manage the completion of the signing of the purchase and sale while I was gone. And honestly, I got beautiful messages from my clients just telling me, hey, have a wonderful time. Stay on vacation. Do not worry. This is all covered. You've done an amazing job and you deserve to be on vacation. And that felt great that they recognized that the preparation and the support that was in place really well executed so that they felt completely supported, even while I was mostly checked out and enjoying myself. What else happened while I was away? My Instagram and Facebook accounts grew by more than 1,000 new followers. My email list grew by more than 300 new subscribers, people who were downloading my multi-generational living guide and getting on my email list. My content was viewed 500,000 times during the little less than a week that I was away. And my brand new podcast, last week's episode of the podcast was streamed over 1,000 times, which I think is amazing for a brand new podcast. So all of this happened because I had automations in place, because I had staff in place, and I'm not patting myself on the back. I'm very happy that I've done all these things and set all these things up so that I could go on vacation and enjoy actually being away from business. But the reason I bring it up is because I think it's really important that we talk about after 50 how we can lean into a different strategy for managing our life. You know, it's not just about the grit and energy and fire that maybe we brought to our businesses and our ideas when we were in our 20s, 30s, even in our 40s. Now it's about playing smarter and working smarter, not necessarily harder, so that we can really enjoy the fruits of our efforts. And at home, it was similar. My mom is here at the house and she had a health issue that she was dealing with that needed a little bit of extra support while I was away. My sister-in-law stepped in. My sister-in-law is amazing. She is such a beautiful part of our family. It's been my lifelong friend for over, gosh, going on 40 years now. So she stepped in to do that piece while my daughter made sure that my mom was doing fine and taken care of. And she visited her every day and made her a beautiful dinner that they enjoyed on the deck together. And my daughter took care of the dog. A couple of her friends came by and took care of the dog while she was out during the day. My mom hung out with the dog on Saturday night. You know, living in a multi-gen household just provides so many opportunities for everybody to really pitch in and support each other. And I'm just so grateful that this is how we have arranged our lives so that everyone feels supported. I had shared, I think it was an Instagram post that I shared not too long ago about how when you create your multi-generational home, that the conversations that need to have around how that home is going to work extend beyond just the family members who are living in the house. And I got a lot of feedback on that post that people hadn't really thought about that too much, but I think this is a very important point to bring up, that when you're living in a multi-generational household, it can very easily fall on one primary caretaker in the family who's living in that household to take on the greatest amount of responsibility for the other people who need support. And in our case, I'm talking about aging parent. And last year, my mom had many health issues going on, and we had a conversation with extended members of the family, my brother, his wife, my sister-in-law, who I just mentioned, and their kids, their young adult kids, like my kids are young adults. And we all made a plan for how everyone was going to step up in this time when my mom needed more support. That's not always easy to do. It's not always easy to admit that you need extra help. It's a little bit bigger of an ask, maybe, to ask people to drive a distance to show up and support when you're living just upstairs and could easily pop downstairs. But I think we all need to be honest with ourselves about when something feels like maybe it's too much or out of balance, and how we can really call in the support that we need. So last week was a great example of my wonderful sister-in-law stepping up and picking up a little bit of slack while I was away, and my daughter stepping in and doing the same. So I think the general message of this episode of the podcast, which perhaps will be a little brief given the state of my health and my voice right now, is that after 50, the true test of success isn't what happens when you're hustling, but maybe it's what happens when you step away. So I would ask you this. Can you step out of the day-to-day of your life and really enjoy getting away from your household responsibilities, getting away from your business responsibilities, and fully show up for yourself in vacation mode or just rest mode? And what does that look like for you? What would feel nourishing to you in your life? And what systems do you need to have in place in order to feel nourished and supported when you claim and plan that time to rest, whether that's on a daily basis or a weekly basis, a quarterly basis, an annual basis, if that's when you take vacation? What do you need to feel supported, and how can you put that in place? So as I sit here sipping my tea, recovering from this little cold, which, by the way, is totally worth it. My vacation was completely worth it. What I'm really reminded of is this idea that success isn't about how much you can do or how busy you can be. It's really about creating a life and a business and a home that works for the way that you want to live, and that keeps moving even when it's time for you to step back, whether that's by choice or perhaps a health issue or some other need arises that requires you to step back. How well can your life keep running while you take a break? Because here's the thing. Burnout helps no one, not your family, not your clients, not you. And after 50, I think we get to define what leadership looks like in our homes, in our lives, in our businesses. And a big part of that is learning that rest isn't indulgent. It's essential. If you're in a season of your life where you are looking to buy or sell a home and you need support, I would highly encourage you to hire an agent who has systems in place to support you professionally, with automations, with staff, so that you are fully taken care of and get the support that you deserve. You can go to my website, juliford.com/hire, to download a free guide that I've created called How to Hire a Realtor, even when it's complicated. It has 24 questions that you should ask any agent that you're interviewing when you're considering hiring someone to sell your home or help you buy your next home. And if you're an agent who needs more support in creating a real estate business that aligns with your life at this stage, you can visit my website, juliford.com/agents, for more support. See you soon. Thanks so much for listening to Home After 50. If this episode resonated, I'd love it if you'd come hang out with me on Instagram. I am at It's Juli Ford, ITSJULIFORD. Just remember, no E on Julie. That's where I share ideas and behind the scenes about multi-generational living, real estate, business, and creating a next chapter that you love. And if you're curious about whether multi-generational living might be right for you, you can grab my free guide. It's in the link right in my Instagram bio. It's a simple way to get started imagining what's next. Because after 50, home isn't just a place. It's who we're becoming. See you next time.